Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wisconsin Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure webinar. I ask, as you have joined, to please mute your microphones and please save your questions for the end if you have any specific questions about this program. We do have a full schedule on this webinar today, and we'll hope to have some time slotted at the end for a little bit of a question and answer session. If you have questions as they come up during this webinar, we ask that you please post them in the chat box. And in doing so, if you can please include your email address so we can get back to you. We have had great interest in this webinar. We've had over 350 registrants, which is amazing. Thank you all for attending today. But that does mean that we may not get to all of the questions that are posted here during this webinar today. So that will allow us to get back to you after this webinar ends. If you please include your email address for us to get back to you as you're asking questions in the chat box. With that, I will kick it over to Secretary Randy Romanski for a brief introduction. Secretary.
Thank you, Bradford. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Thanks for the interest in the program. I am Randy Romanski. I'm the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, and we are very happy to be meeting with you today to talk about the great opportunity available through the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Program. I'm going to refer to it as RFSI for the remainder of my remarks. I'm going to be relatively quick. Just wanted to say to you all that we at DATCP take our role seriously as being a resource to farmers, to businesses, to consumers, to you all. The RFSI program is one example of how we're able to do that, trying to connect the dots and fortify the supply chain. The great thing about this program is we're talking about the middle of supply chain activities. Bradford, Andrew, and our team will go over the eligibility components and answer questions at the end. But, you know, the great thing about this program through USDA Ag Marketing Service is that there are a lot of different activities that are available for funding: aggregation, processing, packaging, distribution. So we hope that we can answer some of your questions today. Please do ask questions with our staff. Follow up with them if you need to. Bradford already mentioned it, but the website will be populated with information. I'll finish up where I started off, is that we're here to be a resource to you. Again, appreciate your interest in this, and I'm going to turn it back over to Bradford and listen into the conversation.
Thank you, Secretary Romanski. And again, we are hoping to have a quick Q&A session here at the end. I do request that if you have a question to not interrupt during the webinar, please post your question in the chat box. And in doing so, please include your email address so we can get back to you in the event I'm not able to respond to your questions live. With that, we'll just do a brief introduction of our team working on the RFSI program here in Wisconsin. I'm Bradford Steiny. I'm a program and policy analyst here in the Secretary's office, and I've been involved with standing up the program. And I will kick it over to Kara.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for joining us. My name is Kara Kasten-Olson. I am an Ag Program Supervisor here in the Division of Ag Development.
Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew Bernhardt, and I'm an Ag Program Specialist in the Division of Agriculture Development.
April.
Good morning. I'm April Yancer. I'm the Farm to School and Institution Program Specialist in the Ag Development Division.
Chad?
Hi, my name is Chad Kaufman, and I am the RFSI Grant Specialist for this program.
And I'm Grace Poots. I'm another Ag Program Specialist, and Chad and I our role is supporting you. So that's what we're here for.
Chad and Grace actually just started last week, and we're very excited to have them on board. When you do contact us with questions and comments, they will be the ones providing you those responses. So we're very happy to have them with us today. I will just start by going over just a brief overview of the program and an overview of our website. So I will cover all of the things that you need to know as a potential applicant as you consider applying for the RFSI program And then I will turn it over to Andrew, who will cover all the things you need to know in terms of applying for the grant program. And I did just see a question come through. We are asking that all questions and emails go directly to our web address, or our email address, and that is rfsi@wi.gov, and we will post that in the chat box as well. That way we can aggregate all contacts we receive in that central location. So it just got posted in the chat box, and thank you very much for that. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And Kara, can you see that just fine? All right. So when you come to our website, and it is rfsi.wi.gov, you will see a number of different materials available to you. First will just be a broad overview of the program. So we are awarding $27 million for this grant program overall. There will be 2 different grant tracks available. One will be for $10,000 up to $99,999 for equipment only grants. So think of that for any equipment you may need that would qualify as being a middle of the supply chain activity. Now, what that means is, the way I've always thought about it is anything that once it leaves a farm up and until it gets to a grocery store or farmer's market or similar organization. So that is broadly the middle of the supply chain that we're talking about. And anything qualifies except for meat and poultry and wild caught seafood. Now, according to the USDA, the meat and poultry products were excluded from this programming because there have been a lot of other resources available to those sectors in the past couple of years in terms of COVID response and other grant awards that have been out there. So they are excluded from this program under the USDA guidelines. So I covered the equipment only grants. We also have grants available from $1 million to $3 million. And that was what we're calling our infrastructure grant program. That can also include equipment only. The equipment only track requires no matching funds whatsoever. So that is a 100% grant from the USDA and the department here. The infrastructure grants require a 50% match. And if you're an underserved entity applying for this program, you would qualify for a reduced match of only 25%. Couple of things I wanted to touch on our website here. So you will find a lot of the information I just spoke about here on our website. You can sign up either here or here to receive program updates. As mentioned earlier, to contact us anytime, and it was posted in the chat box, please email us directly at rfsi@wi.gov. We have some additional resources here on the side. These are partner organizations we are working with to provide technical assistance for the RFSI grant program. So if you have questions about ways in which you may be able to secure some financing, ways in which you need some technical expertise to apply successfully for a grant, or apply for a grant generally, please click on those links and reach out to some of our partner organizations. They would be happy to assist you with all of those questions. On our website currently, we have the news release that went out announcing our grant application period. Our grant application opened on December 18th, and it will close at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, March 6th. So again, this grant application period is open through Wednesday, March 6th at 5:00 p.m. Andrew will talk about a little later on how to apply and where to submit your documents and things of that nature, but I'll just continue on with all the things you will need to know prior to considering an application. On our website, you will also find an FAQ sheet. are considering to be a living and breathing document. To this point, we have received a lot of questions at our rfsi.wi.gov email address. A lot of them have been one-offs. I was actually looking at it the other day to see if there was anything we could update at this point in time. And really nothing sparked at this point, but as questions continue to come in, please know we will be updating this document frequently. And the best way to stay in tune with everything that is new going on is to sign up for those updates that I had mentioned before. On this FAQ sheet, we currently have 28 frequently asked questions that you may need to consider as you're looking at applying for this grant program. As you're applying, one of the things is you will need to qualify as a U.S. Small Business Administration small business for your specific sector. So that's very important. Some of the common codes that we have been told, because we did ask USDA what they expect some of the common codes will be. We will post that in the chat box, but some of them would be subsector 11 for agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting. Subsector 311 for food manufacturing. Subsector 424 for merchant wholesalers and non-durable goods. And subsector 48 and 49 for transportation and warehousing. To get a full list of all of the different Small Business Association size standards, there's a very helpful tool on our website. I'm going through it now, and you can find your specific NAICS code and line it up with, let's say, you are, let's find one that would make sense here. Of course, there's not one that comes to mind right away. All right, how about malt manufacturing? Let's say you're a malt manufacturer here. It would tell you what your NAICS code is, and it would tell you what your SBA size standard would be. So if you were a small business doing malt manufacturing and you had 500 employees or less, you would be able to apply for this grant program. Some of the other ones can be found here that I think we would expect to see a lot of. Frozen fruit juice and vegetable manufacturing, 1,100 employees or less. So if you qualify there, you can apply for this grant program. So that's a helpful tool that's available to you on our website. We also did post a link to the U.S. Small Business Administration size standards tool. So if you're not sure what your specific NAICS code may be, you can come in here and search by keyword. So you could look at vegetable, fruit, and canning and say, oh, you know what? That fits me. There's your NAICS code, and then you can plug in your NAICS code into this tool. And it will ask you how many employees you have. Let's say it's 200. And you can check your size and whether or not you are eligible to apply for this program. So again, a very helpful tool for you to look at before even considering an application that is available to you on our website. Again, please sign up to receive RFSI program updates if you haven't done so already. Another thing we have on our website currently, and if you would like to be added to this, please reach out to us at our rfsi@wi.gov email address. And that is to be listed as a collaboration resource on our website. Here is a list of all of the entities that have expressed interest in collaborating with another entity or assisting with your application, as well as the entities I listed under our additional resources tab on our website. So if you would like to be added to this, if you're interested in collaborating with another organization on an application, this is a tool we put together for you to look through there and find somebody that may be in your area, maybe in your city, maybe in your county, that has expressed also some interest in collaborating with another organization. So we put that tool out there as well, based on some feedback. Another thing we have done since we launched the program on the 18th of December is we did notice, and Andrew will get into this a little later on, about how to apply for the different templates and walking through the application process. But we did hear some feedback that downloading template 1 for both of the grants was a challenge for some. We did reach out to USDA on that, and they provided this video. So I'm just going to play this brief video quick for everybody on the line today. And that way, if you're having any issues in accessing our application template 1, this walks you through that process and how to go about it.
Hello, my name is Sean Rolfe, and I'm going to be showing you how to download a PDF online and open it up in Adobe Reader. I have my screen share. I'm going to go to the file. Now it's going to open up in the browser, or attempt to, and what you need to do is download it to your desktop, save it, and when it downloads, you can open the folder here, or you can open it directly from your desktop. You can either right click and hit open with Adobe Reader or Adobe Acrobat Pro, whichever one you have. Click enable features. And then you can continue to fill in and save as you like. If you prefer, and it might be easier, you can also open up Adobe Reader after you save the file to your desktop. And then from Adobe Reader, you go to File, Open, and open up the file on your desktop. And it opens up, and then you can fill in as needed. Thank you for your time.
So that is something we have available on our website. You just have to click the review this video. And of course, if you are having any issues beyond that, in terms of opening any of the documents we have, again, please contact us at our email address, rfsi@wi.gov. With that, I am going to turn it over to Andrew to walk through the application process and documentation required. Andrew.
Hi. So as Bradford already mentioned, there are 2 different grant tracks. Just want to make sure that everyone knows that for each grant track, there's going to be 2 templates that need to be filled out. Those are unique to each grant track. So there's going to be 2. If you're going to apply for the equipment only grant, then you need the equipment only template 1 and the equipment only template 2. If you're going to apply for the infrastructure grant, then you would need the 2 templates for the infrastructure grant. And you have to make a choice. You can only apply for one, not both. For both of those templates, you can get those on the website, which is what Bradford was just walking you through. The template 1 is a USDA provided template to us, and it's kind of a large file size, and some people were having difficulties getting that downloaded to their computer, and that's what that video was about. Template 2 is a Microsoft Word document, and that is a little easier to download, but like Bradford said, if you have run into any problems accessing any of the files, please reach out to us at RFSI at wi.gov, and we'll help you with that process. All materials need to be all the templates and any additional documentation, all that needs to be emailed or mailed together by March 6th. If you're emailing, then all those documents need to be in one email mailed to us by 5 p.m. If you're going to mail it, the mailing address is in the RFP, and that needs to be postmarked by March 6th. If you email the different templates and any additional information, any other files that you need to attach, please, it would be helpful if you rename the files, possibly putting your organization or your business name in front of the file type name. That way, everything helps us keep track of everything we imagine this is going to be a pretty competitive process. So I'm going to share my screen. Possibly, maybe. So this is the website that Bradford already showed you. If you have any questions, I've seen some few questions come into the chat already. I'll be working on getting some responses to those questions. If we don't get to enough time to answer every question, we'll be following up with answers. So on the website, there's going to be the infrastructure grant and the equipment only grant. The RFP, template 1 and template 2 for the infrastructure grant, and then likewise for the equipment only, there's the RFP template 1 and template 2. Also, depending on your situation, you might also need to provide a match verification letter, and if you require any critical resources or infrastructure, there's a letter for that as well. Those can be used for either the infrastructure grant or the equipment only grant. So I'm just going to download the infrastructure grant template 1. So I'm not going to take a lot of time to walk through every single question or walk through every single point, but if you have any particular questions, feel free to put that in the chat. As we scroll down, it asks for UEI, that's unique entity ID. For people that have been writing grants, federal grants in the past, that was previously the DUNS number. The UEI is something that you're going to have to apply for, register for. And that process is not immediate. It can take a little while. So we recommend that you start the process now just to get the UEI. And if we look at the web page again for the RFSI, there's a link to that. So the System for Award Management, people often just acronym that SAM. So if you click on that, it takes you to the sam.gov website. There, just to let you know that there is a lot of companies and a lot of people out there that are willing to say that you can pay them to help you with the process. There are also even scams out there. So if you want to register with grants.gov or sam.gov, that's always free. You should never have to pay anything. But this is the registration page. The green button here is where you would get started. You click on that and it'll walk you through some things. I just want to point out a couple of things on this webpage. They have a checklist here, and it is actually pretty thorough, and I recommend you downloading that. So if you click on it, it will walk you through the questions that they will ask you in the application process, so you can kind of like get prepared for things. One of the things, the choices that you have if you have not registered, if you don't have your UEI right yet, you can register and just get the most basic, the most easiest process is just to get the UEI number. But that's going to only allow you to like apply as a sub-recipient to, like in this situation, you're applying to the state of Wisconsin. But if you want to ever apply for a federal grant or a federal loan, then that won't be enough. So you have to make a choice if you're going to register yourself fully, or if you're just going to get the UEI number. I would recommend you just do a full registration, but that's your choice. And on this, it kind of walks you through this process. So for all registrations, you want to do certain things. So you'll have to make a choice on that yourself. And it's going to ask you about all sorts of stuff. But remember, this process can take a little while for it to get approved. So recommend you start on that earlier. If you go to the homepage for sam.gov, I just want to point out one more thing. There is a nice little overview webinar or video, sorry, overview video right here that you can watch. And it kind of just breaks down what this is and some of the differences between the different kinds of registrations. Scrolling down, the Distressed Communities Index, that's something that USDA is asking everyone to gather this information. You can add and subtract rows as necessary. So for any county that the project will be benefiting, if you're delivering, if the you're buying food from somewhere, sourcing food from somewhere, or if food is going to some county, you can list all the different counties there. It could be one or many. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to be entering in the county and then the distress score. So if there's a link in the application that takes you to a map, and this is what this web page looks like. So and if you hover over any particular county, it's going to show you what the distress score is at the top in the blue. So, or I guess it's based on the what ranking it is. So that's the number that you need to look up and enter in next to the county name. However, to save people a little bit of time, I went through and just wrote down what every county was in the RFP. So if you're in the RFP, we went through and made a list of all the different counties and what those distress scores are, the DCI, Distress Communities Index number is. And so that's just an easier way for you to enter that in. Same thing, you can do it however you'd like. So you're going to be adding that in. One thing I wanted to point out for a type of applicant, so this is the USDA template that we were not able to edit, but it says select applicant type, but it's actually, you're able to select more than one box. And a question came up, if someone is a producer or a processor, do they still have to select if they're for profit or nonprofit or something like that? And the answer is yes. And also, even if you are a producer or a processor and you're also for profit, then you have to meet the SBA small business size standards. So you would still have to make sure that you qualify as a small business to apply if you're for profit. Most of these questions I'm going to breeze through for the sake of time, and I'd rather just give ourselves enough time at the end to answer your own questions. We tried to make it so that the scoring criteria matched up really well to each of the questions in all the templates for each grant track. So this is where you're going to be entering in narrative-based answers, whether it's the PDF template 1 or the Word document template 2. And we did not put any kind of page count limit, or a word count limit per question. We didn't put any of those restrictions on the applications, but we are, these will be competitively reviewed. And so I just want to also say that even though you could write as much as you want, that it would be appreciated, and it probably will be reviewed better. It might score better if your proposals make sense. And sometimes writing something that is terse and to the point and maybe fewer words is going to be easier and clearer than something that is very long. So that is up to you on how much you want to write. And it's a balancing act between providing enough accuracy and detail with being terse and succinct in your writing. For these outcome and indicators, we are hoping that everyone is going to be able to pick things that they're going to measure throughout the life of the grant. And for the match, it was, Bradford had pointed this out earlier. If you qualify for the reduced match, that's something that you self-certify. And you, by choosing to do that, you are attesting to the truth of your answer.
Andrew, on that note, there have been a number of questions coming in on whether or not that reduced match ties in with the SBA small business standards at all. The answer to that is no. Those are two separate items.
Thank you. All right. Also wanted to touch base on the match verification form and the critical resources and infrastructure. So the
Andrew,
match
screen had stopped sharing somehow. So if you're able to reshare your screen, otherwise I can pull them up for you.
Okay.
As you're talking through them, just let me know.
Yep. So it's with the match verification form. This is a letter that's going to be from partners that are going to be involved in your project, and they will address the letter to you if you're the applicant, and then you need to edit the information in here. There's some gray boxes that you're going to be putting in, the appropriate information, but there's going to be the grant period, like September 30th, you would change that and edit that to whatever is relevant for your project. And then there's going to be, as probably most of you know, match is something that you are going to commit to the grant. So in addition to the funding that you receive, if you are awarded, they're asking that you bring some of your own investment to the project, some skin to the game. You add some, your own skin to the game, and that can be in the form of, I commit to paying for something or buying something during the life of the grant, and what that purchase is necessary for the implementation success of the project. And instead of asking the grantor, to pay for it, I'll pay for it. And so that is a cash match. And so you can describe that cash match. If you're providing something that you aren't paying for with cash, but it has a monetary value and it's necessary for the implementation of the project, you can also count that as in-kind match. And so a lot of times in-kind match is staff time. You're already going to pay that person to do work, and now they're going to be working specifically on this project. They have a role on the grant project. Then they could count the value of their time, salary and fringe, onto the grant. And however, if you also have infrastructure or existing stuff, right, that you would, if you didn't have, you would need to buy or rent, then you can count the value of that and apply it as match. If it's something that you own, you can't count the full value of buying it new. Usually you just count whatever it would cost for you to rent something. So for example, if you needed to have some kind of equipment and you already own it, then you would say, okay, what is the cost of renting that during the life of the grant? And then you can put that into as match. So there's been a lot of questions about match, and I know that in real life, there is going to be facilities and even expenses that are facilities that kind of straddle a lot of these grant eligible activities, and we can address those. I think some of those have been answered in the FAQ. But this is where you'll be documenting some of that stuff if it's coming in as match. The critical resources and infrastructure required by USDA. If someone is, the way this letter is structured, it is an external person writing to you, the main applicant, and talking about the things that are already in place that are necessary for the success of the project. This is like a pretty standard template that is provided by USDA. You can edit this if you're bringing in your own critical resources and infrastructure, and it's necessary for you to be successful. You can edit this document, and you don't need to write yourself a letter addressing yourself. You can just make a list and describe the infrastructure or resources that you have to give the reviewers a better picture of what do you have in place that's going to make your project successful, that's going to allow your project to have a larger impact. So this is going to help strengthen your proposal in the fact that you're saying, we're asking for a truck, and maybe you're ABC processing, and you want to get some kind of processing new equipment or a truck, or some kind of extra storage, or maybe you're doing an expansion. But if you can talk about the infrastructure that you already have that you're going to be building upon, and then what kind of impact or reach that's going to have, what kind of benefit that's going to have to the local agriculture, farmers, community, then you can talk about some of the existing infrastructure that you have right here to kind of help supplement your narrative in your proposal. So Bradford, I think that was about all the templates that I wanted to touch on. And it's been, is there anything else that you think I should?
Would you just maybe want to touch on a little bit, walk through the scoring criteria for the two grant programs? So folks are
Yeah.
aware of that as they consider applying.
Yep, okay. The scoring criteria, this is the infrastructure RFP. The scoring criteria are similar, but they're slightly different. You will notice if you read through the RFP very carefully that these questions are going to correlate to the questions that are found in both of the templates. And so on the left-hand side are going to be the number of points that are possible. And you can score the max, or sometimes, you might be scoring, you might land in somewhere less than the max. And so this is comprised of what USDA has asked us to find out. And it's 2 points for project readiness. So critical resources and infrastructure necessary to support the initiation and completion of the project. So that supplemental document, the critical resources and infrastructure, that's going to be something that reviewers will be looking for and reading and saying, does this help by reading that, is it clear? Does it help them give a picture of what your project is going to be doing? What kind of impact it's going to have? And so this is going to be a combination of maybe a few questions in the template plus some supporting documentation. Issue, problem, or need, up to 15 points. Objectives, there's going to be on the proposal, the template, there's going to be a way for you to add and subtract rows for more or less objectives. Beneficiaries, this is long, it's going to include a lot, but some of the things that we're talking about are the target beneficiaries as dictated by USDA, underserved farmers and ranchers, beginning farmers and ranchers, veteran producers and processors, and socially disadvantaged business owners are kind of the target audiences set by USDA. The distressed counties, in addition to just saying, yep, we're going to benefit some county, there's going to be a question in there that says, okay, how are you going to benefit them? What is that benefit going to be? And it's going to have you're going to have to support that. One question where you needed to provide the distress community index score with some narrative base. So reviewers are going to be looking at all these things when you talk about who this project is going to benefit and give a score for this particular one out of 15 points. Impact, this is going to be the largest question. So you can, as you're putting together your narrative, you can say, oh, wow, the 20 points, up to 20 points is going to be for impact. And so you know that that's going to be a really important part of the proposal. I didn't really talk about the budget and the budget narrative very much yet, but you can score up to 15 points based on how clear your budget is. Some of the things that you should include in your budget is just not the name of the thing that you want to buy or whom you're going to pay, but you need to describe there's going to be a narrative where you need to describe the expense, and you need to say, like, why is this important? How is it going to help me have that impact? How is this going to help me benefit those communities? And then you need to be able to describe why it's important and why it deserves to be funded, each item. And for budget line items that are going to be equipment based, or if you have consultant work, if you have any kind of quotes or documentation or anything that can support that, that's when you're going to be putting in some of that information in the budget narrative. We talk about that so that the reviewers have an idea that this is organized and that you have a plan, and that you're providing enough detail about what you plan on buying and how you spend the grant funds. The equipment only. This is the equipment only grant RFP. So you might notice that some of the scores are a little different. Some of the descriptions and the questions are going to be slightly different. There's a lot of similarity in the two grant tracks, but there's some differences. Impact is we're still looking to have that middle of the food supply chain. Impact is really what USDA is trying to use these federal dollars throughout the country to increase the resiliency. I can't see chat while I'm sharing my screen, so
Yep,
I'm not
you
sure if
can
there's
feel
any
free to
questions.
stop sharing your screen, Andrew. We'll get to a couple of questions here in a little bit, as we are running short on time. I'm just going to briefly walk through what you can expect after you submit your application materials to the department. And Andrew, all application materials are to be submitted to the rfsi@wi.gov email address. That's correct?
That's correct.
All right. So those are due to us on Wednesday, March 6th at 5:00 p.m. After we get those applications, we will be submitting those to various review panels for both the equipment only and the infrastructure grants. That will take some period in time. After we have gotten all grants reviewed and scored, they will be decided upon getting awarded based on their score for the various applications they may have applied for. So if you applied for equipment only grants, you're going to only be scored against other equipment only grants. For instance, if you are applying for infrastructure grants, you're going to be only scored against other applicants who have submitted an application for an infrastructure grant. That review process and scoring process will take some time. After we have finalized our scoring on those applicants, we need to then submit all applications to the USDA for their review as well. DATCP, in addition to those two processes, will be conducting a background check on all applicants. We will be conducting a risk assessment on all applications received. And we expect from the time we get them finalized in March 6th to the time all of those processes are completed and contracts are signed with successful applicants sometime in the summer of 2024 for your project to begin and your contract to be started with DATCP. There have been a lot of questions in the chat box, and I'm happy to answer this now. The program expires in May of 2027. So the hope is we're able to get all of the contracts in place with all subrecipients by this summer, hopefully earlier in the summer rather than later in the summer, just to give you a general sense. Although we're operating on USDA's timelines in terms of reviewing those as well. So that adds an extra layer, which may add some extra time. Our hope again is around summertime of this year to have your contract in place, and that will allow you as close to as possible 3 full years to execute your grant contract for this program. So again, the program ends in May of 2027. Couple of other helpful things to be aware of. We did on just the other day, actually last week, we announced we're having some office hours for this program, our RFSI office hours series. That's going to begin next Thursday, January 18th at 1:00 p.m. Information on how to sign up for that can be found on our rfsi.wi.gov website. We will have a series of office hours, and that will be an opportunity for you to come back. And if there are any questions you have that are lingering, that will be your opportunity to ask those questions of us as you're considering applying for the program. We will have those every other week, starting on the 18th of January at 1:00 p.m. So the first one will be next week, the 18th of January. Then Thursday, February 1st at 1 p.m. Thursday, February 15th at 1 p.m. And the last one will be Thursday, February 29th at 1 p.m. And again, those questions, all your application materials are due to us by March 6th, which is Wednesday at 5:00 p.m. We will just have a couple of questions and answers here real quick before we close out. Andrew, did you see any general themes that you'd like to respond to in the chat box currently?
There are a lot, and I was starting to reply back and starting from the top.
Well, I did notice there have been a lot of questions about food pantries and whether or not they qualify. I think that's a very simple response. If you're a pantry and you have a certain location where people are coming to get food and the food is provided at that location, the food that is, say, on a shelf at a pantry, that would not be eligible. However, if you have transportation that is needed to get the product to your pantry, that would be eligible under the program. If you have storage that is needed, whether it be cold storage or just general storage that is a need for your specific pantry, that would be in the middle of the supply chain, that would qualify under the program. So I think that's an important distinction and should answer a number of questions related to pantries.
And that does apply to some of the questions about farmers. Farmers and processors are encouraged to apply. And it's about middle of the food supply chain activities around processing, aggregation, and distribution. It's on it's kind of in program overview of both RFPs. And it's about post-production and pre-retail. So if you, it doesn't matter per se where it happens or who the applicant is, like you're a farmer, you can still apply, but you can apply for production related activities. Just want to point out that USDA for this grant has kind of summarized the food supply chain into 4 big bucket categories: production, 1, 2, processing, 3, aggregation and distribution, and then 4, markets and consumers. So they're saying it's about projects that deal with processing, aggregation, and distribution. So a food pantry could apply as long as they're dealing with, and the project focuses on processing, aggregation, and distribution, in the same for farmers.
We've gotten a lot of questions too, I've noticed in the chat box, Andrew, about set aside dollars, whether or not we're going to have X amount of dollars set aside for equipment only grants and X amount of dollars set aside for the infrastructure grants. The answer to that question is we do not have any set aside dollars at this point in time. With such a large grant program, frankly, we weren't sure how many applications we may receive and whether or not there will be a lot of people who decide to apply for the equipment only grants between $10,000 and $99,999. and how many applications we may receive between $1 million and $3 million for those infrastructure grant proposals. Therefore, we didn't want to set a certain dollar amount aside for either program, so we can, get as much money out to where the most need is at the end of the day once we receive all of the applications on March 6th. And I think we got time for maybe one more, Andrew, before we wrap things up.
There was one, I sent us some questions about match. There's no requirements about the amount of in-kind versus cash match.
All right, and if you have one
This
more,
is, yeah,
that.
this is also going to be a one-time, this is not a new grant program that will be offered into the future.
Oh, that's a very good point. I did see a lot of questions on that. And this is your one time to apply for this program. We will not have frequent rounds each year. This is the time to apply. So please get your applications in between now and March 6th. The 27 million we have is what we plan to expend based on the applications we received by this March.
There was another question about allowable expenses, and in particular, something about special purpose or general purpose. To be the way I have understood it, that's been kind of hard to really nail down. I think USDA has struggled with trying to nail down that definition. And one way to think about it is this equipment, whether it's a delivery vehicle or general purpose vehicle, it needs to be something that is, required for middle of the food supply chain. And there hasn't been great clarity on that, and I do apologize. One of the ways that maybe we've talked about it is, a reefer truck or some kind of truck, its only purpose is to move food, in between. Whereas I think someone had talked about a pickup truck. That pickup truck can be used for a lot of different things. And so that's going to be something that's just not going to score as well when you compare proposals. I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to disqualify an application. But the difference there is that if someone is going to be applying for a lot of things that aren't necessarily tailored to the middle of the supply chain, I think through the competitive review process, it's just not going to be as competitive.
And I do see we are pretty much at time here. So I want to thank everybody for your interest in the Wisconsin RFSI program, and thank you for attending today. Again, application materials are due by Wednesday, March 6th at 5 p.m. If you need more information, please visit our website, rfsi.wi.gov. Please sign up for our Gov delivery list. We will be doing our best to get back to those who ask questions in the chat box here today, and getting them answers to their questions that we weren't able to get answered here on this webinar. Another great avenue is, like I said, as we're updating the program, updating our FAQ sheets, we will be sending those Gov delivery blasts. So you'll get an email update there if you sign up to receive email updates. That's the best way to get the most updated information on the program. Reminder too, our RFSI office hours start next week, Thursday, January 18th at 1:00 p.m. Please visit our website and sign up for those. And there's my cue that we're at time. This webinar has been recorded and will be posted to our website. And please, if you have additional questions after this webinar, please send those to our email inbox, rfsi@wi.gov. Thank you very much for your time today. And again, thank you very much for your interest in the Wisconsin RFSI program. We will talk to you soon.